Well, welcome to another edition to our Lost Building series. Today we are on the property which used to be known as Weston Farm. Originally, this land was part of the 110,000 acres of land that was acquired by the Lake Company in the 1780s. In his will, Josiah Collins I divided the land along Lake Phelps between 7 of his grandchildren. This portion was inherited by Hugh Collins, the second son of Josiah II, who had to sell it in order to pay off his debts. It came under the ownership of Josiah Collins III, and in 1867, Mary Collins, the widow of Josiah III, sold it to pay off her husband's wartime debts.
Mary's youngest son, Arthur, purchased the land with a down payment. As you can see in this picture, the receipt reads, "Received January 12, 1867 of Arthur Collins $1,000, it being the cash payment on the purchase of a tract called Weston, on the petition of Mary Collins, executor of Josiah Collins deceased, to sell lands to Washington County Court, November term of 1866. Mary Collins, executor by J. Collins." We do not know exactly how Arthur had the money to pay for Weston. It was acknowledged by his contemporaries that Arthur did not have a penny to his name. In 1867, Arthur was living at Somerset Place with his mother Mary. From 1869 until 1875, Arthur lived in the Colony House, working as a manager for his cousin, William Blount Shepherd, who then owned Somerset Place. In July of 1871, Arthur Collins mortgaged the land of Weston Farm for $8,400 to be paid back in semi-annually increments and to be paid in total by July 1st of 1876.
In the mortgage document, Weston Farm was described as, quote, "a certain tract of land known as Weston, containing 1,450 acres more or less, lying on the northern shore of Lake Scuppernong, formerly Lake Phelps, extending along the shore of said lake about 1 mile and running back from the lake about 2.5 miles, being bounded on the east side by the plantation known as the Shepherd Farm, and now the property of Neil McKay, and on the west and north by the lands of Herbert Page, Eli Woodley, Daniel Woodley, and others." Just over a year later, in December of 1872, Arthur Collins again used Weston Farm's 1,400 acres of land as collateral for a loan to be paid off by July of 1876. Arthur did not move to Weston Farm until 1875, so these loans might have been used to pay for the building of his farmhouse and perhaps to get the farm up and running. Weston House was very similar to the one he grew up in at Somerset Place, although we can tell by the design it was built 40 years later. As you can see in these photos, the front of the house was designed in the late Victorian gingerbread style, as opposed to the Collins family home, which was Greek Revival. The front door also appears to be double door, which would be in keeping with many houses building in the same style. Although these photos are not as clear as we would like, we can also see that there were 3 stories with a smaller wing on the back. This back wing looks like it could have been a separate structure that was attached to the larger portion of the house. The landscape around Weston House was dotted with various buildings. It was a running working farm after all. Across from the house, a large long barn stood, and from old aerial pictures, it appears there were at least a couple of other small buildings close by as well. While living at Weston, Arthur employed formerly enslaved persons from Somerset as day laborers and tenant farmers. We know that Luke Davis, who used to be the enslaved butler in the Collins family home and was a grandson of Sukey Davis, lived in one of the tenant homes at Weston Farm. According to the 1880 Washington County Census, Arthur Collins was living in Weston House with 84-year-old Elick Millen, formerly enslaved at Somerset, and Catherine Roberts with her 3 children. Catherine was also formerly enslaved at Somerset. Debts continued to compile for Arthur Collins. In 1886, Arthur sells Weston Farm, and it appears that his cousin, Herbert Page, purchased the land. Although he sold the property, Arthur refused to leave his house. In a letter that Jane Pettigrew wrote to William Pettigrew in February of 1887, she described a scene that happened at Weston. Page offered Arthur, quote, 100 acres land at Somerset rent-free and the house to live in for this year if he will give up Weston without forcing him to employ the sheriff to evict him. But Mr. C is furious and threatens to set his bulldogs on anyone who goes there to turn him off. When Arthur did eventually leave Weston Farm, he was the last immediate Collins family member to live on the shores of Lake Phelps. Various people continued to live in Weston House throughout the first half of the 20th century. It then started to fall into disrepair and was completely torn down sometime in the 1990s. To learn more about what happened at Somerset Place, the people, and the surrounding land after the Civil War, we are offering a new special guided tour, Somerset Place in the New South, from Plantation to State Historic Site, 1865 to present, on the third Saturday of every month at 1 p.m. There is a small $3 fee per person for this special guided tour. Well, that's it for this addition to our Lost Building series. Stay tuned to learn more about the tenant houses of Weston Farm, which Noah will be covering in our next video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified of our new uploads. And until next time, thank you for watching.